Good morning, everyone. Sorry, I've been busy this morning. Hope you guys are having a great start to your day. Let me just put in my phone number and then we can jump right into it. Good morning, everyone. Sorry, I'm just putting the phone numbers. All right, so let's pin this. Good morning, Instagram. Good morning, YouTube. Good morning, Facebook. So as I told you guys, I will update you as soon as we have any updates or information on the pause, and all of that good stuff. But for those of you joining me for the first time, my name is Aisha Chidole. I'm an immigration lawyer here in Atlanta, Georgia, but we present clients in all states with their immigration matters. If you'd like to schedule a consultation, 678-325-1037, or you can also call 678-233-2170. The number is pinned on my Instagram and it's scrolling through the ticker on Facebook and YouTube. I wanted to give you guys, let's start right away with, the ruling from Friday. Whenever these things happen, I'm always usually like, I was under the weather. I was, sick on Friday. And so I just never even have time to get to it because there's just always so much going on. But again, so for those of you who have asked, as of Friday, an immigration judge out of Rhode Island has basically put a stop to the ban that basically, the pause, I should correct myself, the pause here in the United States that basically left immigrants in limbo about a few things. First thing being, I'm trying to pull up the list so that I can give you exactly the things that they struck out. So the first thing, of course, is the rule where if you're from one of the 39 countries, they put an adjudicative hold or pause on your green card, your citizenship, or your EAD. He has lifted that, saying that, it violates the law, that this is not what Congress intended, that this is what Congress stated, and people should not be punished because they were born or citizens of a certain country. He has also removed the blanket ban on asylum, because basically, according to him, this policy was enacted because 2 National Guards were shot last year, but that you cannot just blanket ban people, from 39 different countries that had nothing to do with that. Basically, he said the law is this action is very contrary to the law and arbitrary and capricious. So this is where we stand, right now. So I say that to say this was removed on Friday. Today's Monday. It's still very early to see how that's going to be put in the application. It is a law that can be cited, in applications right now or in follow-ups. I'll go back to that question that this person asked. And so one could use that to make certain arguments, just like, a lot of my colleagues are using the argument, with the ICYW and versus NOAM. That argument was basically to say people who have humanitarian-based cases, who have prima facie determination letters, bona fide determinations, should not be detained, should be released from detention, because the whole point of those humanitarian-based cases is to allow those cases to process, to see what comes out with those cases. So a lot of people have been using those arguments to get their clients released from detention, or people who were unlawfully deported while they had those cases pending. So again, this is very new. USCIS usually gets their own updates on Monday, while we lawyers get ours on Friday. That's the joke, amongst like USCIS and lawyers. Let's see how this week goes in terms of processing, and I will be able to update you guys once I see processing of certain things from these countries. Keep in mind that they have always been processing certain things from these countries, like i.e., people have asked, if you're from one of the 39 countries and you have a valid application, were they still approving prima facie determinations or renewing them? They were always still doing that. They were always still doing the biometrics. They were always still doing the interviews. They were always still approving the I-130s or whatever it is. But the pause were on things that gave you actual authorized status here in the United States, like the 485. They had the pause on the 485. So they would approve the I-130 and then they wouldn't approve the I-485. The I-485 was the one that would give you the green card. They had those on hold. So hopefully now those are going to move. Same thing, you go through the whole process for your N-400 for citizenship, but when it comes time to swear you in as a naturalized U.S. citizen, they had a pause on that. And then they also had a pause on approving EADs, which are work permits. So they would do the biometrics and do everything, but they would, stop the pause there. So now the law is basically saying they cannot do that. So let's see what happens. And then I will keep you guys posted once we start to see, starting this week, since it just happened on Friday. Someone is asking, after filing, how long does it take to get an EAD? Honestly, right now, you should fully expect that it can take you up to 11 months. That's just the reality of what we're seeing. The processing published timeline says 10.5 months. We're really seeing more of that than less of that. Last year we're seeing it quicker, but again, I think a lot of this is attached to some of the stuff that USCIS was doing with the adjudicative hold, but just expect it to be somewhere between 10 to 11 months. If it ends up being earlier, then that's great. If you're filing a marriage-based case, though, we are definitely seeing that most people are being scheduled for their marriage-based interview even before their work permit is approved. Meaning you file your marriage-based case, we're seeing 4 to 8 months. If you filed your marriage, for sure, if you filed your marriage-based case this year, or at some point in the fall of last year, we're seeing 4 to 8 months for interviews. So that's what you can expect from those. If I don't have any residency proof of me and my wife living together, I just have Amazon order receipts, can I still file for VAWA? I was mentally abused and tortured. It's going to be hard to overcome. You're going to need to provide evidence in your personal declaration as to why you don't have evidence that you guys lived together and what you did to try to get that evidence. Obviously you have the Amazon order, but if you have neighbors that maybe know you or the property management or wherever, those people can also write letters. You can do internet searches to see where your name, because sometimes some of this home search, whatever, you can search it and it might have places where you've lived. And if you find any with your name listed in that address, you can also include that. But more importantly, you have to be able to explain that in a way that they're able to believe. Sometimes you might have an abuser that's very, very controlling, that doesn't want you to have access to anything, that makes it difficult. But if that is the case, you want to explain that. Okay. Lawrence on Facebook says, how long does it take to get a receipt notice? I am a U.S. citizen. I filed for adjustment of status for my underage kids who are in the U.S. I and my kids are from one of the 39 banned countries. It can take anywhere from 4 to 8 weeks on average for that. One of the things you want to check is that since you filed adjustment of status, you can check your bank account if you use a bank or if you use a credit card. Once you see that the money has been taken out, then you know that you get your receipt very soon. Someone said, is it possible that one judge can just issue the ruling to USCIS and how effective will that be? Yes, it is possible. These are federal judges, and federal judges, just like immigration, is federal law. So it doesn't apply to states specifically. They can issue a blanket rule saying that this is illegal. This is something that affects, one of the things that I read in the judge's decision was a long decision. I think it was 132 pages or something like that. He was saying that it is really, really unfair to collect people's money, ask them to pay this increased fee for work permit, this increased fee for naturalization, this increased fee for 485, and then just leave them there. That is wrong. That is wrong. And it is absolutely wrong. And hopefully, again, everything will be challenged. I feel like they've challenged everything until it gets to the Supreme Court. There are very few things that I feel confident about in this administration, but I feel confident that if they are reading black letter law, like, this is wrong, because the whole point of the pause was that in 90 days we'll be given directives of how we'll review this, and what we'll be doing. But no directives were given. No, there was no transparency, just basically withholding people's documents, but collecting the money, because at the end of the day, USCIS is self-funded by applicants filing, so yes, the judge can do that. What's the hope of VAWA that has been filed for over 2 years? VAWA cases are taking about 4 years right now. 4 years right now, you're definitely not going to get anything before at least 3 years, unless you have an expedite that was approved. Let's see what else y'all got. I did my interview in April. After the interview, the officer said everything was fine, but he can't approve that day because of the biometrics rerun memo that came out that week. Yes, that after that is done, we'll see response. Been a month now, never seen a thing. Contents master, one of the things that you didn't mention is what country you're from. We've definitely seen green card approvals since the April 27th biometrics rerun memo. Definitely still slower than normal, but we're definitely seeing them. So it would be good to know what country you're from, and it would be good to know what your case type is. I have never ever believed any officer that says everything looks good. Until I have a decision in my hand, it doesn't matter. I can't tell you how many people come to me and say, oh, I think my interview went really well. And then I was shocked by the RFE I got, or a notice of intent to deny. So it means nothing to me. Like, if an officer says everything is fine, unless there's an approval. Okay, you've just given context, you're from Nigeria. That's why you wouldn't have heard anything, because again, you're from Nigeria. Nigeria was one of the countries with the adjudicative pauses, which just got lifted on Friday. So hopefully that would mean that you'd get something soon. Hopefully, if truly everything was fine. All right. Okay. Let's see what else we have here. What happened to an I-130 that has been submitted since February 2025? What's the question? I don't understand. Are you saying that why have they not made a decision? Sometimes they may not have made a decision depending on what kind of case you have. It depends on if you're in a family preference or immediate family category. Sometimes at a family preference, your I-130 is not going to be approved until closer to whenever your family preference category will get to its, timeline. So that's probably what it is. Ugo says, will a warning ticket from the police because of dead tail light appear as having a criminal record? No, that's not a criminal record. My VAWA has been pending for over 4 years and my EAD renewal for almost 2 years. Without knowing your country, I can't really state what I would do if I was in your situation. So I need to know what country you're from. If my husband has filed my change of status and my tourist visa time to stay in the country has elapsed like a month ago, is it safe to travel by flight to another state in the United States? Just honestly, until you have like a work permit, travel permit, like I just wouldn't, and I'm a lawyer, I just wouldn't. Now, are there people that risk it? Sure. You just have your receipt, sure that you didn't, that you were in status when your spouse filed. But honestly, it's just not worth the stress and anxiety to me personally. So, and I've always said it, I mean, do we approve people? Like, do people email us every single day, like our clients, asking us, is it okay to travel? And I tell them, if it was me, I wouldn't travel, but there's nothing in your record that stops you from traveling, but assume the risk on your own. Do they still travel? Sure. Do they travel and come back? Sure. But again, I'm only speaking about myself personally. Like, I just wouldn't, fly if I don't have the documents that I need to fly. My spouse and I would like to move to the USA from the UK. What visa do we need? Thank you. Are you sure about that? You might want to stay in the UK. This is not the best time to move to the United States. Okay, I'm just kidding. But anywho, it's not about what visa you need. Like, you have to be eligible for something. So, because you're coming, just because you and your spouse are coming, one of the things you want to look at are investment visas or employment-based visas. UK is one of the E-treaty countries, so you can always apply for an E2 visa, meaning invest in a business here in the United States. And if you invest in a business here in the United States, then you should be able to come here with your spouse. Okay. Good morning. Was Jamaica recently lifted from the USCIS ban on Friday? Jamaica has never had a USCIS ban. Jamaica has had a consulate ban. Not ban. Let me correct myself, because you guys have to know the difference between a ban and a pause. A ban means doesn't matter, you're banned. A pause means we're pausing, but we're going to move forward at some point. Jamaica was never on the USCIS pause list. For those outside of the United States consular processing, Jamaica is on one of the 75 country pauses. That is not part of what the decision on Friday was. The decision on Friday was not for consular processing. Right now, that decision is for USCIS processing of cases here in the United States. But there are lawsuits that were filed, and I believe that we should be hearing something soon. Okay. Okay. With a pending asylum application and an expired F1 visa, can I still go ahead and file a marriage-based application? Yes, but you also understand that if you have a pending, let me correct myself actually. You said you have a pending asylum case. I don't know if you're in removal proceedings or not. Because if you're in removal proceedings, you can't file adjustment of status with the USCIS. One will need to know exactly where your pending asylum case is and, all of that good stuff to determine whether you can only file an I-130. Can you help me for a lawyer in Atlanta? I am in Atlanta, so you can call our office. Our number is there, 678-325-1037 or 678-233-2170. Or this is for Baye Modu or comment, yes. And someone on my team can reach out to you after the live. And anyone, if you found this information helpful and want more information or want us to reach out to you about whatever concerns you, definitely comment yes, and we will reach out to you. Okay. Okay, so someone's saying that their vow has been pending for over 4 years and their combo renewal card almost 2 years, and they're from Jamaica. Yes, you should definitely be doing status inquiry at this point to find out what's going on with your case, to ask to be scheduled for an interview or to ask for adjudication. I will be curious to know if you are an applicant who had a request for additional evidence though, or not. I'm from Nigeria and my green card and got my green card via VAWA. My child's green card had a mistake on the country of birth. Send green card for corrections last year, June, but no update. Yes, there was a period last year where when they had these new, actually when they moved to Nebraska, they were making a lot of mistakes with Nigeria and certain other countries where instead of Nigeria, they would list Niger as the country. The problem with mistakes is that USCIS takes up to a year to fix the mistakes, which really, really is unfortunate. But that's just what you're going to look at. In the meantime, while you are waiting for that correction, your child can get an added stamp on their passport, which is like a temporary green card while you are waiting for that. Is it the best time to file for M400 as a Nigerian? Is the best time to file for anything that you're eligible for, as long as you're eligible. There is no such thing as you're from a country and you're banned from applying for an application in the United States while you are here. So if you're a green card holder, as long as you're eligible, you should be able to apply. Now, if you're saying that you're not eligible or you didn't get your green card correctly, then you should reconsider that. But if you are eligible for an N400, what are you afraid of? You should apply for it. If the judge terminates your removal proceedings, what's next? Awesome. Well, I don't know. It would depend on what are the benefits you have. Why did they terminate it? So like, I would need to know what's going on in your case. Like, what is the basis of the termination? Do you have another relief? Usually judges don't terminate unless there's another basis of relief or approval. So without knowing that, I can't tell you what's next because I don't have your case, but I'm happy to review it and let you know. Okay. Yeah, so prolific, just wait patiently or reach out to USCIS. Can someone with advanced parole through VAWA? I don't understand that question. Is it true that the 39-country ban has been lifted? The 39-country pause here in the United States has been lifted. As I said earlier, what we're now waiting on is to now see how they will act on those this week, because it was just lifted on Friday by the judge. So today is Monday, meaning it's been maybe about 2 hours of work since that ruling. So once we start to see some adjudication or processing going on, I'll be better equipped to let you guys know what the situation is. All right, guys. Again, comment yes if you didn't get your question answered and you want someone to DM you or reach out to you about that. Otherwise, I got to jump off. Again, schedule a consultation. That's the best way to get your answer. That is specific for you and not just a broader answer. Phone number is 678-325-1037. You can also call 678-233-2170. It's on my ticker if you're watching me from Facebook or YouTube. Link in the bio on my Instagram, on any of my social media platform. Really, you can book a consult yourself directly as well in there. All right, guys, I hope you guys have a good day. Again, happy to answer your questions in a consult. All right, guys, bye.